movie opens with Fabio meeting his boss, Don Lewis, a powerful drug lord. Fabio tells him he wants to quit the business and plans to hand over the gang's accounting records to another associate. Don Lewis smiles and says he will miss him, and they share a toast. As Fabio leaves, Don Lewis secretly signals his right-hand man, Marco. Fabio isn't fooled. He knows no one leaves the drug world alive. Taking 3 loyal bodyguards, he hurries home, knowing they have only 1 hour to escape the country. Fabio rushed home and told his wife, Alicia, that they had to leave immediately. He asked his daughter, Catalea, to pack her things, but she said she was already prepared. Fabio then told her that if anything went wrong, she must go to the U.S. Embassy and give them a chip containing all the evidence of Don Lewis's crime. Fabio gave his daughter the address of his brother and handed her a necklace engraved with a Catalea flower, the flower she was named after, which her mother loved to grow. Moments later, Marco and several gang members arrived and killed Fabio's bodyguards. Fabio and Alicia fought back with their guns, but they were both killed. Catalea sat still at the table when she heard the sound of gunfire. She quickly swallowed the chip. A moment later, Marco and his men approached her. Marco pretended to be friendly, saying he was her father's friend, but then revealed that Fabio had stolen something from Don Luis the chip. Catalea leaned forward, then quickly grabbed a knife hidden under the table and stabbed Marco's hand. She climbed out the window and jumped down. Her parents had clearly taught her how to survive in dangerous situations. As Marco's men chased her with parkour runners, motorcycles, and cars, Catalea managed to escape by hiding in the sewer. She lifted the sewer cover and made her way to the U.S. Embassy, where she met an agent. He asked about her father, and Catalea told him he was dead. When he asked more questions, she suddenly vomited and handed him the chip. It contained detailed records of all Don Lewis's operations. The agent looked at her in shock and asked if she understood what had just happened to her. Catalea asked for a passport. In exchange for the chip, the CIA agreed to help her leave the country and prepared all the documents. An agent escorted her to Miami. On the way, she asked to use the restroom and escaped through the window. She then bought a bus ticket to Chicago, just as her father had instructed. When she arrived, she went to a poor neighborhood and asked for Emilio. The man, Emilio, was Fabio's brother and Catalea's uncle. When he saw her, he was overwhelmed with emotion and hugged her tightly. Catalea finally broke down and cried in his arms. The next day, Emilio took her to a private preparatory school and bribed the principal to let her enroll even though it was mid-year. As they left, Catalea grew upset, thinking she wouldn't learn anything useful at the school. Catalea realized she needed to learn how to become an assassin. Suddenly, Emilio pulled out a gun and shot the driver, causing the car to crash. He told her that contract killers were everywhere, and if she wanted this life, he could train her. But he warned that without intelligence and skill, she would be dead within 5 years. That's why, if she truly wanted this path, she had to go to school first. Catalea learned to understand people by listening quietly. Present, 2 police officers sit in their car, talking, when a drunk driver suddenly crashes into them. A woman stumbles out, speaking with slurred, incoherent words. The officers quickly restrain her. Around her neck hangs a necklace with a flower pendant. It is Catalea now, all grown up. She was taken to the police station, charged with drunk driving, and locked in a cell for the night. Catalea soon fell asleep. Late that night, U.S. Marshals brought in a prisoner and placed him in the same cell. Catalea opened her eyes. The drunk driving incident had been a setup to get her inside. The prisoner was her real target. She changed into a tight black suit and began to pick the lock. She took a spoon from the coffee cup in the cell and quickly turned the camera away so she wouldn't be seen. Then she grabbed a cup of water from the fridge and went into the electrical room. Using the spoon in the water, she created a spark and slipped into the ventilation shaft. Moments later, the dripping water caused a short circuit. Catalea slipped through a fan just before the power came back on and landed in the men's restroom. The guard had gone to get coffee, giving her the perfect chance to move. She knocked him out, dragged his body in front of the camera, and tricked the system into unlocking the door. Catalea unlocked the cell and woke the prisoner, ordering him to take off his shirt. When he hesitated, she fired several shots, alerting the officers nearby. They rushed in and found only the guard awake, holding a gun as a decoy. While they searched the building, Catalea quietly slipped away, climbed to the roof, and escaped. After the chaos, Catalea crawled back through the vent, returned to her cell, locked the door, and changed clothes. When the officers came to check, she pretended to be asleep. The next day, after fingerprinting, she was released. Catalea left the station wearing a latex suit with fake fingerprints. Back home, she relaxed, danced to music, and took a long shower. Later, she visited Danny, a painter, and her casual boyfriend who knew her only as Jennifer. Catalea spent the night with Danny, but left the next morning, afraid to let him know who she really was. Later, FBI agent Ross discovered that the victim was connected to a series of 22 murders that had been under investigation for 4 years. The murderer was known as the killer because a Catalea flower was carved on each victim's chest. In New Orleans, CIA agent Richard visited the heavily guarded mansion of Don Lewis, a powerful criminal who had never been caught. Richard showed him the photos of the wounds, but Don Lewis coldly denied any connection. Richard reminded Lewis that the CIA had protected him, allowing him to run his cocaine business in exchange for information. But he also hinted that something was wrong, and Lewis immediately understood. After Richard left, Lewis ordered Marco to take care of the problem. Lewis suspected that Catalea was behind the murders and felt he needed to finish what he had failed to do years ago. Meanwhile, Catalea met with Emilio, who angrily handed her a card. He reminded her of the promise he had made to Fabio to protect her and said he never wanted her to follow such a dangerous path. Emilio always tried to protect Catalea by giving her safe jobs. But she refused to stop until Lewis was dead. Reluctantly, Emilio gave her a new target, a hedge fund manager who had run a Ponzi scheme, stolen billions, and gone into hiding. At the FBI office, Ross reviewed the security footage. Some agents thought the killer looked like Catalea, but they doubted a woman could be that skilled. Meanwhile, at her place, Catalea fed steak to her trained dogs. Inside Pee-Pee, Emilio's friend, maintained her weapons and vehicles. Catalea opened the safe, took out several fake passports, and chose one for Mexico. At the hedge fund manager's mansion, he was surrounded by beautiful women. While joking by the pool, he said the sharks wouldn't bother them until a single drop of blood made the sharks turn violent. The hedge fund manager told his guards to bring in more guests. Meanwhile, Catalea swam through the pool, sneaked into the mansion, and aimed her silenced pistol. When he stood up, he saw the words "the thief" and a flower symbol carved into his body. He searched the mansion and discovered all his guards were dead. Grabbing 2 guns, he rushed to the pool area and saw a flower there. Catalea was sitting nearby, waiting for him. He tried to shoot, but his gun was empty. She shot him in the leg and he fell, begging for his life and offering to pay her double. Catalea then shot him in the chest. He fell into the pool where the sharks ripped him apart within seconds. Back in the U.S., she went to Danny's apartment, but he was away at an exhibition. She lay on his bed, holding his shirt close, showing her feelings for him, though she was too afraid to admit them. Ross studied the tag killer's card when the mailman brought an important clue, a Catalea flower that only grows in Colombia. He tried to connect it to cases from there, but the CIA denied his request. When he called Richard for approval, Richard dodged his questions. Richard warned Lewis to act quickly before Ross connected the clues. Lewis ordered Marco to find Catalea and question every Colombian until he discovered her family. Meanwhile, Danny came home to a dinner Catalea had prepared. She kissed him, but he stopped her, wanting to sit and talk first. Danny and Catalea spent the night together again. By noon, he secretly took a picture of her while she slept, then woke her with breakfast, joking that it was already lunchtime. Catalea grew upset, feeling vulnerable, and decided to leave, leaving Danny confused. Catalea met with Emilio, who was furious after reading the news. She was still leaving her calling card, and now they were being hunted. 8 people had been killed in a bar, including Emilio's friend. Catalea refused to stop, but Emilio warned her that her family was now in danger too. After his son's death, Emilio killed many people, but it didn't solve anything and only put his family in danger. He gave Catalea a photo of her parents, reminding her of what she could still lose. She broke down in tears and went to church with Emilio and her grandmother, seeming ready to give up her revenge. At a cafe, Danny told his friend he was falling for his girlfriend Jennifer, even though he didn't know much about her. When his friend saw her photo, he was amazed by her beauty. While Danny was dealing with a parking ticket, the friend secretly took his phone and sent the picture to his sister-in-law, who worked at the police station. The friend asked his sister-in-law to look up Jennifer, not realizing the trouble he was starting. Soon, Ross received Cataleya's photo, traced it to the police station, and arrested the technician who handled it. By comparing the photo with prison footage, he confirmed her identity. Ross had finally identified Cataleya. At home, she called Danny to express her feelings, but panicked when he mentioned the photo. When she found out his friend had seen it, she realized the police were surrounding her apartment. As SWAT broke in, she turned on the shower, slipped into the air vent, and escaped. She ran through several apartments and broke into one, knocking out the tenant who tried to stop her. In the bathroom, she found a hidden harness and a sniper rifle. As Ross and his team stormed her apartment, she set explosives and used the harness to slide down a pipe into the garage. She shot the cameras and slipped into another vent just before the SWAT team arrived. Trapped in the subway, she still managed to escape. When Cataleya reached Emilio's home, she found it destroyed. Pete was dead on the floor, and her grandmother lay motionless in the kitchen, leaving her devastated. Then she found Emilio tied to a chair, also dead. It was clear that Emilio had been tortured. Cataleya whispered an apology, then screamed in pain and rage. Meanwhile, Ross returned home and found her waiting with a gun. She told him to sit down and revealed that his chair was rigged with a pressure-sensitive explosive to stop him from making any sudden moves. The Cataleya flower symbol was meant to draw out Don Luis, but he had only just realized it. He had taken away the last thing she cared about. Cataleya warned Ross to get information on Don Luis from the CIA or she would kill one of his family members each week until he felt the same emptiness she once did. She promised the bomb would be disarmed after she left, and it was. Ross met with Richard to report the situation, but Richard refused to share any information. Just then, Ross got a call from Cataleya. She warned that Richard had to give her the address, or he would die. Richard laughed, believing he was safe behind the reinforced glass windows. Cataleya fired a sniper shot, shattering the glass and forcing Richard to give her the address. Ross asked about his family, but Cataleya hung up. She had never intended to harm them. She went to Peep's garage, gathered several guns, looked at the two dogs, and then drove the armored vehicle straight toward Don Luis. At Don Luis's mansion, Marco told his men to attack Cataleya, but she was too strong for them. Suddenly, a sharp whistle rang out and a rocket exploded, destroying the room. Marco pulled the injured Luis to safety while 4 gunmen escaped in a convoy car. Cataleya crashed her truck into the convoy car, crushing it completely. She jumped out and started shooting, killing the guards one by one, including Luis's most trusted men. Marco dragged Luis into a safe room, but after a brutal fight, only Marco and 1 soldier were still alive. Cataleya killed the last guard and got into a brutal fight with Marco over the gun. As he tried to shoot her, she wrapped a towel around his neck to choke him. The gun didn't fire because she had already taken out the magazine. She then tore off the slide and stabbed it into his neck, killing him. Luis realized that all his men were dead. Without Cataleya noticing, he sneaked out of the safe room and tried to escape in a truck. But he ran into a dead end blocked by a garbage truck. Marco's phone started ringing. It was Cataleya calling. Luis bragged that she would never catch him, but when he turned around, he saw her standing there with 2 dogs by her side. The dogs attacked Don Luis and killed him, bringing Cataleya's revenge to an end. Meanwhile, Danny was arrested and questioned by the FBI. He admitted he knew very little. Ross said there were still many unanswered questions. Then Danny's phone rang. It was Cataleya. She told him she was safe and that he had 40 seconds before the call could be traced, just enough time to ask 3 questions. Danny asked for her real name, and Cataleya told him. He asked if his little bird would ever return, and she said maybe one day. Just then, an agent informed Ross that Danny had received a call from Cataleya, and they hurried to his location. Danny softly said he loved her, and it brought tears to her eyes. Ross ordered Danny to hand over the phone, but Cataleya ended the call before saying anything else. Ross stared at the phone for a moment, then released Danny. Cataleya put on her sunglasses, got on a bus, and disappeared to an unknown place. Thank you for staying with the story until the end.